one of our songs for
It
Fumble
is.
ended up in this Law and Order, and we get like 50 Shazams every
See, I didn't
week
know that. That's so
because of
cool.
that. So everything is possible if you just as Andy Warhol said, 90% of success is showing up. So we just need to keep showing up everywhere, and then
Yes.
over time we can kind of bring those principles and bring people to those principles. That's the way I approach
Yeah.
it.
Radio Detox back with another amazing guest, someone I've been fortunate enough to meet in real life in Las Vegas. And now we're phoning it in across the miles so we can talk about what's going on in the Bitcoin space. Welcome, Rami. You know him as the Higher Low, the one-man band, and you probably listen to his music. So welcome to Radio Detox, Rami.
Great to be here. Thanks for the invite, and it was nice to see you in person in Las Vegas.
Yeah, it was, you see people on like Fountain and Wavlake and, Nos or Twitter, whatever, like you kind of get an idea of like, okay, I think I know his music. I think I know what he's all about. But then, you got to get the real story. So that's what we're going to do today. So you had the time of your life in Vegas. I think you were probably, out of everyone who was there, I think that of all the bands that played Nos Vegas at We All Scream, I think you were having the very best time. And I think you traveled from the furthest place too. So can you just talk about your impressions of the big event at Nos Vegas? It was a side event to the Bitcoin conference. How were you I don't know, coming to the US and then coming to this like US Bitcoiner show? Like, what'd you think of everything?
Well, it was great. I used to live in the US for a couple of years, from
Mm-hmm.
2011, 2013, and so like it's not the first time in the States. And I had the pleasure of playing at the couple of events at the Nashville event a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, but then it was a long break, and I was even considering. I had so many shows in Europe, and I kind of felt that Europe needed more help in understanding the importance of Bitcoin than most Americans. That I focused on elsewhere, but then I had already booked my trip to go to Las Vegas for this event, and then the show happened, and was happy to just pack my guitar and go and play some Plebrock for people.
That's awesome. So we'll back up to like, what is pleb rock? Like, if you want to explain that, because it's kind of a term that, I don't know, I think you invented because you've been around long enough to kind of take credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the whole idea of the higher law was to kind of sing songs about, hopefully catchy songs about Bitcoin culture and freedom in the digital age without being like too obvious about it. So I'm not like making songs like Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. Other people are doing great songs like that, but that's not my thing. And I guess the Plebrock was a good way to kind of encapsulate what I'm doing, because it kind of, plebs versus the man, that has been like the theme. It was already in my life even before I found Bitcoin, because I started my first punk band in the 90s. So I always had that mentality, and then at the time the word pleb was very often used in all kind of Bitcoin conversations. So I was thinking that that's kind of a nice short way of telling people what I do.
Yeah, because people can listen to your songs and they're not really explicitly in your face about Bitcoin. Like, Pain is the Greatest Teachers is a good example of that, where like no lyrics are like, hey, go buy Bitcoin, it's gonna save your life and give you freedom. It's more like I don't know, esoteric ways of addressing the issues around Bitcoin and maybe your love of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think because I've been a songwriter since, as I said, from the 90s, and I've always tried to make songs that, on surface level are something, but then they have like some deeper meaning, a little bit hidden inside there. And I also thought, because my original band Fumble, which is still active, does have some people who have been following the band for a long time. So I thought that if I make it this way, maybe they will want to listen to my music anyways, without even realizing that I'm singing about these topics. And if they then start, checking the lyrics and stuff, then they might find something interesting there. That was kind of the whole idea.
There's an understated power to that. So music obviously came first. You were in a punk band in the 90s. You've stayed in music. It's not what you do for a living, but it is, I could say, maybe your first love. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd say I moved as a kid from role-playing games to skateboarding to punk rock. And then I stopped becoming an adult in that way. So I kind of stayed in that thing for the rest up until now. Obviously, then on the kind of career side, things have kind of evolved little bit more, but for this purpose, because this really for me is like a project of love from my side, basically, because I just love doing this. And even though I've encountered a lot of super talented musicians, like I saw in at the Nos Vegas event, Abel James and the other artists, excellent musicians, which I wouldn't call myself an excellent musician, and that's why it
I
really
would.
helps. And you were earlier saying that I seem to have a lot of fun at the event. That I guess one of the tricks that I use is that I make my songs so simple that I can kind of have fun while I'm playing those. Because if I would make them super technical, then I would be just thinking about the technical playing. And I just want
Mm-hmm.
to have fun when I play. So I make super simple songs, but then I do have the kind of an upgraded version of the band with full like drums, guitars, bass in Finland, my home country. I live abroad
Mm-hmm.
currently, but when I go to Finland, we play the real full band songs. So here, there, the point is that I go there with my acoustic simple song, and then my super talented friends make like these big arrangements, as you can hear in the latest album, Freedom in the Digital Age, where every song is like full on rock song with drums and guitars and everything, all the cool parts. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're a one man band most of the time, but you have a band to back you up when you are in Finland, correct?
Exactly, exactly. It was
Okay.
the whole thing started when I was doing these quite long work trips 3, 4 years ago, and in the
Mm-hmm.
weekends I was like, should I watch Netflix or go party or should I do something creative? So then I just where I was staying, I found a guitar, like a cheap, I don't know, $40 guitar from the corner, and started writing songs. And then it just sparked in my head that maybe I could not just write about the topics that I've always written about. Maybe I could somehow bring my Bitcoin fandom into the songs, and wrote about 10 songs, but never did anything with them. And then at some point, my family went on a trip, and so I had just had some time. So I recorded some songs and started putting them in YouTube, and then things started kind of snowballing from there.
That's cool. So do you just like travel with a guitar now, or like how does that work? Do you just do this on the road, or like how does music, I guess, fit into your life? Aside from, I know you've got a full-time job, most of us do, and like how does this all work?
For me, it's basically being making music for such a long time, like 3 decades or something. Most of the time, I'm not playing or thinking about music, but then somehow in back of my head, these ideas develop. And then when I pick up the guitar, often I practice my existing songs to be ready for the next show, but then I have like a little bit of jamming session, and then some songs might just kind of pop out like automatically. So I don't spend like, 12 hours a week, just like trying to get that creative juice coming out to write a song. It's more like if the feeling is right, some good idea comes out and it could be almost full-fledged. If not, then I just record it with my phone and then revisit it and then maybe, write the second verse and stuff like that. So it's kind of a simple process for me because the music I make, the essence is so simple. So the key is to have some kind of good idea for the verse melody, chorus melody, some interesting structures that is not the same as every other song, and then have some catchy parts, and then integrate these ideas of like my fear of the kind of a digital hellscape that we are clearly moving towards, to
Yeah.
the kind of sense of freedom that Bitcoin brings to your life if you fully understand it and take it like a stay humble, stack sats type of mentality. And I think you were asking about traveling with the guitar. Logistically, it's super simple. I just I just take a guitar and fly somewhere. And in a way, it's like I think in a way the value for value mentality that we saw at Nos Vegas in Las Vegas was really
Hmm.
cool, because it's a very independent feeling when you can just take your guitar, go to the airport and fly somewhere, plug it in and play a show. You don't have to deal with like 5, 7, 6 other people to get it done. Obviously, event organizers are always the people that make it happen, and that's amazing. But it's super simple. And then also when you play and then people start zapping you, and suddenly you're getting like meaningful amounts of zaps, then it's also you feel like that's like if people have been talking about independent rock and do it yourself punk rock whatever for like 50 years, but seeing like a meaningful amounts of zaps coming while you're playing, it feels
Hmm.
pretty independent. So I'd say
Yeah.
that the Las Vegas was like the culmination. I have been playing many times. I have been getting a little bit of saps and stuff like that, but never at the level as I saw in Las Vegas. So that was like a kind of a clear example of what the world could be in a bigger way in a decade or so.
Yeah, I think that was the first time we actually used PubPay, like pubpay.me, at a live show. And I think the thing that made that special was that the screen next to the stage showed PubPay in such a way that people immediately got it. Like they would see a QR code that would like go to a Nostr post. So you're basically zapping a Nostr post, and it would be like whatever Nostr post you made about the show. Like each musician would have a post, right? And then people would be sending zaps to that post via PubPay because there'd be either, this QR code on the screen that you would hit, or you just get on Nostr and find that piece of content, at the artist Nostr account, so to speak. And you'd be zapping it there. And then you would see the zaps immediately, show up on the screen. Well, okay, like a couple seconds later, right? And so then it became, because the visual, I think, was the biggest it had been ever, people really identified with it and grabbed onto it, and it got competitive. So like somebody would send a fat
That's the
zap.
thing.
Yeah. And it's everyone else would see it in the crowd and be like, yeah, and it's like, it had a party vibe. It had a competitive, gamified vibe. And that was, the first time we had that visual aspect in that way. And I think that worked really well. And obviously the artist benefited because in the end, altogether, you guys made more than 2.5 million sats, which is very good money. And,
Insane.
you're not going to make that just, playing a neighborhood bar or a D venue. That's definitely, falls into the category of like extra money or augmented money. But I don't think that you do this for the money. Like, obviously it's great to earn Bitcoin in any amount for anything that you do. Anything that you provide to the world, like that's great. But you, like a lot of us, just have a day job and this is a side thing. So like, you're not doing it for the money. So if I'm correct in saying that, like, why are you doing it? What motivates you to put music out in this way?
Yeah, definitely not doing it for money. I don't know. I'm lucky now. I have a good job that and I live abroad. I have like a quite flexible timetable, so I can, let's say four to six shows per year. I can do and fly somewhere for a few days. And for me, it's just something I did when I was a kid. I had like a reinvigorated about 2006. Then we restarted the original band, and then we became super active touring Europe. And one of our songs even ended up in the what's it called? Law and Order Special Victims Unit. One of the one of the
Oh,
show
no
starts
way.
with one of the songs from my main band Fumble. But then I just never thought that this would interest people enough to invite me to play at places, and so I've been
Mm-hmm.
just using my own money to go play. And sometimes there's been this kind of a nice bonus that you get some kind of compensation, and that's obviously lovely. But that's not the reason why I do it. It's like a nice bonus. But especially when it comes in Bitcoin, then it feels like much more meaningful.
Much more meaningful on a long, time preference scale. So like with the music came first, what brought you to Bitcoin? Like, how did you discover it, get into it? Like, when did that happen?
Yeah, so I heard rumblings about it quite soon after it was launched, and I was living in the US in San Francisco 2012, 2013.
Nice.
So I was hearing, and later on I understood that I was basically living like a couple of blocks away where all the original meetups were. But I was head down working on a startup, so I didn't pay too much attention. I had this classic like an Achilles heel in a way, coming from
Mm-hmm.
Finland, where we were kind of the early adapters or like even inventors of the early like mobile technology and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
so so one example was that we were able to order taxis in the 90s with just sending an SMS, and the taxis would
Wow.
get the location from the SMS and just come and pick you up. So when I was living in the US, and then Uber came, and everybody was like foaming in their mouths that this is the most amazing thing that ever happened. I was like,
Especially
okay,
in San
this is cool,
Francisco.
but we had that like 12 years ago in Finland. We could already do it. Yes, it wasn't so cool, and because the mobile technology, like the apps, were not there yet.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, it's cool, but never understood how big it will become, the whole ride sharing thing. I think the same thing when I heard of Bitcoin, I was like, yeah, well, I've been sending money digitally since the 90s already, so you know, probably nothing interesting there. I had no idea. I was fully like indoctrinated in this Keynesian economics because I studied social sciences in university and
Mm.
economics. But
That'll do it.
there was never any mention about like what money is and comparing like US and dollars, euros and dollars into with gold and stuff. No, it was just the usual Keynesian BS.
Hmm.
So it took me a long time. Then 2016, the company where I was working at, we acquired a smaller company, and when they joined us, they were Bitcoiners. So then when they were coding, then one screen was for the code, the other screen was for the Bitcoin price, and I was like, "Why are you so interested in it?" And then finally, 2017, I was like after we Bitcoin went to 20,000 and then dropped to I don't know 15,000, I was like, "Well, might as well get some and see what happens." So then I put a meaningful amount in my compared to my income in, and then started learning about it, and then slowly but surely, my conviction grew, and then finally reading the Bitcoin Standard, then I was like, everything kind of clicked, like irreversibly, and then I was like, whatever money I have after all the kind of immediate things are taken care of, and maybe a small buffer for special occasions, pretty much goes to Bitcoin. And I've been humbly stacking since 2017, and yeah, even with these current prices, these could be worse. If I wouldn't have discovered
Yeah.
Bitcoin, I probably would have bought something very stupid over the years.
That's true. Like it makes you more frugal. It makes you like I always comb through my finances and look for like ways to save money, ways to cut so you could stack more. And then, maybe you get a stack sometimes and then there's just an emergency and you're like, well, shit, I didn't want to spend my Bitcoin like this, but that's also what it's for. But I think about things like I even regret like 401ks. I'm just like, oh God, that could have been Bitcoin. It changes the mindset so much. And I also regret like being I wasn't early to Bitcoin by any means, but my early days of Bitcoin would be like 2018 and I just didn't grasp it. And I was just like, I bought this Bitcoin and it went down 40% and now I'm pissed, because I didn't get it. I thought it was like a stock you buy and it's supposed to take off. Like,
Mm.
and I think a lot of people come to it from that way. And like, for me, I was the opposite of you. Like I didn't have any face-to-face Bitcoiners to turn me on to Bitcoin. Like that's so cool. Like you had coworkers who like made you wonder about it. Like I had one coworker at one point in time who was like, yeah, I bought Bitcoin once and I made $1,000 off of it because I sold it. And that's probably where I got the idea from, that it was like a trading thing, because I also didn't know any better. And nobody teaches you about money. And you're right. You do get indoctrinated into this Keynesian thing. And I think that if you asked most people on this planet what is money, they would not have an answer for you, or they would not know like how to answer that. Not that there's like a right versus wrong answer, or that the answer is some kind of catchy slogan or something, but it's just like if you ask people what is money, they may not go right towards Bitcoin, obviously, but they probably might be, struggling to come up with any answer whatsoever.
Exactly. I guess the like us Bitcoiners caught on quite early to have
Hmm.
some level of understanding how corrupted the fiat system and the central banking system is. Uh,
Hmm.
and but for a long time, they were very good at kicking the can down the road and like not making those problems that too visible for the ordinary people. But that obviously changed after the money printing during the pandemic and then the inflation that followed, and the horrible situation in most Western countries where young
Hmm.
people have to save like 20 to 40 years to even get on the housing ladder and stuff like that. It's completely
Yeah.
insane stuff. So I think more people now realize that there is a need to put your fiat into something that kind of cannot be debased as quickly as possible. Obviously, lately there's been other good options like gold and AI stocks and stuff like that, and Bitcoin has been kind of the little bit more boring option, which I personally I like that Bitcoin is boring. That's why it allows me to
Yeah.
live like a full life. I can do a lot of stuff when I don't have to stare at a trading view terminal 6 hours a day or 16 hours a day.
True.
Just keep stacking. When the price goes high, super high, then I might stop stacking for a while. When the price goes super low, then I like double or quadruple my stacking, and rest of the time I just live my life. It's super easy.
Yeah, because Bitcoin can't be your life. These things cannot be your life. They're there to enhance our lives. They're there to make our lives better. And it's certainly like not to downplay the importance of Bitcoin and understanding it and putting it into your life as a practice. Like just that idea of like, when it's low, I buy more. When it's high, I chill. I wait it out. I have that low time preference now. Like, I have a goal. I know that I can save in Bitcoin, and it's going to be worth more as I age, which I think, we're probably that same age group where like, that's a big selling point for us, where like, I think the younger age group, they still don't get it. Like, my niece is Gen Z, and she still thinks that stocks are great, because her grandma bought her some and good happened. And so she has appreciated that system. Whereas my nephew is 21 now and not interested in this at all. Has no idea what Aunt Heather does. Has no idea that like, the kids don't realize that I'm here for the revolution and that it involves them, and I would like to teach them this, but I'm also very cautious not to drive it down their throat. But it is for them in the long term. It is for their generation. It's for Gen Alpha. It's for everybody. But getting there to where, it doesn't look like it's a bunch of like greedy finance or tech bros. Like that's a place where I think in some ways that's become kind of the perception of it. And that's not what it is at all. Like it can't be this elitist thing, and it can't be this like business case. Like, we have to remember that Bitcoin is for people for long term. It's for, certainly to fix problems in the global south. It does fix so many problems. But if we start talking about that stuff, we lose people, right? They're just like,
yeah. It's always the best that there's some kind of entry point for people to kind of get some Bitcoin, hopefully forget that they have it, and then be surprised like a couple of years after that, oh my God, what happened? It's like 2 or 3 times or 8 times or even 10 times higher. And then right now there's so much good educational material like Lynn's book and say Feddy's books and so on, that then if they take the time, the proof of work to actually kind of do a deep dive on what this actually means, then they might become like long-term Bitcoiners. And I always like this theory that, Bitcoin goes up and goes down. And when it goes up, then lots of like short-term, like, game for the gains people join in. But the small percentage kind of stay. So small percentage then, check enough podcasts or a rabbit hole recap or whatever good material, and then they realize that this is much bigger than just like short-term gains, and then they kind of stay for the brains in a way. And I guess the great saying I heard a long time ago, and people had been recently also kind of posting it in X. I don't think anybody remembers where it came from, but that's a great saying. I often tell my, let's say my friends or people who somehow find out that I'm involved in this scene, is that Bitcoin is not a get rich scheme. It's not get poor slowly scheme.
yeah.
And that basically, that's exactly what it is. Because if you start stressing out when the price goes like this is, you lose everything if you start like, if you think you're smarter than the market will punish you. Like one time, a very long time ago, I bought, when Sailor started this Bitcoin strategy, I bought just a little bit for my like what do you call in the US, like the pension thing, like the so we have similar in Finland. So I just a little bit, few shares there, and then at some point it went up. I sold all of it, and then when it dropped 40%, I bought it back. So I made one trade very successfully. That's it. My days of being a trader were ended in a good way.
Yeah, that's there's certainly like there's material that I revisit, like Gigi's 21 questions. Like I there's certain things that are just like I will probably read over and over again, and like you come to it differently later. Because one thing I think is that for me anyway, like I don't see people leave Bitcoin. Like, people never get mad, and and that's certainly like I saw somebody saying a whole bunch of crap today on Twitter about leaving the shitcoin world because they got burned, right? It was like some guy was complaining he got burned by Cardano. Apparently there's been some Cardano disaster. So he was complaining that like Bitcoiners are going to laugh because it's like, we told you not to do that. But like he messed around, dedicated his life to Cardano, which sounds weird to me, but this is what he said on Twitter, and I forget the name of the guy, but like I guess he was a Bitcoiner, and other Bitcoiners were talking about like, this is what happens when you leave Bitcoin. But you see people leave the shitcoins. You see them leave the shitcoinery, and they've got to blame somebody. It's so and so was greedy, and it's their fault, and those are the people that refer to those things as like projects, and it's just, the whole shitcoin world is weird, and I don't understand it. I just know that they do this weird proof of stake thing that I can't explain. I'll stick with Bitcoin and proof of work, but nobody really leaves Bitcoin. Like you may your Bitcoin journey may change and evolve because you as a human being are changed by Bitcoin. It changes you. You don't change Bitcoin, it changes you. And so and I'm at a place where my Bitcoin journey is changing, certainly, because I've been around for a while. I've worked in the Bitcoin space for a while, and I'm making some changes. And so one of those changes I'm making is to Radio Detox. I'm sort of, we talked about this before we started recording, but I'm sort of right sizing Radio Detox because I've probably spent about $100 a month for the last 2 years making Radio Detox. Even if it was on a pause, you're still paying for subscription software in order to make the podcast. And it's not that I didn't use those subscription software, items for other things that I was working on because, I freelance, but I kind of hit a point where I'm like, okay, it's been a couple years since I started Radio Detox. I started it in July of 2024, and $100 a month isn't really paying off. Let's be real here about where the space is. We know where it's been. We know where it is. We don't know where it's going. So I'm like, okay, let me dial it back and not only stop paying $100 a month. I can save $70 a month because let's be real. The podcast, I've tried 3 different hosting options for the podcast, right? I loved RSS Blue, right? That was $5 a month. Okay. And that got swallowed up by Fountain, which I've also used, which is $50 a month or $25 a month if you so choose. And then there's Pod Home, which is $16 a month. And all of these things were great. But at the end of the day, Radio Detox makes me about $13 a month, Rami. And I would say at least half of that comes from the same person every month. So I feel like the idea isn't validated. And where Radio Detox works, because it does have a following, it does have hundreds of listeners. So I'm in the hundreds, man. But where it works is as video. It does great as video on socials. And I think people are just into the video sharing. And I certainly need to grow the YouTube channel. So that's what we're working on right now, is because also the other problem with Radio Detox is it has stayed in a bubble. Because I wanted to do things the independent way or the value verse way or the open source way or whatever, it has stayed in that bubble. And that's not helping me. And that's not helping you as an artist. That's not helping anybody involved in this space. So when I say that I'm right sizing it as far as what I'm spending and what it's bringing in every month, I'm also trying to get it to the right audience and trying to get it to the Bitcoiners who haven't heard about this at all, because we are staying in our own echo chamber and just kind of having this circle jerk, all of us. And so I want to break that up, and I want to get the podcast to grow outside, and to do that, it's got to get outside of the valueverse. So I've never put it on Spotify or Apple, for example. I've never put Radio Detox wherever you get your podcast, and I've kind of kept it in its own walled garden, which was unintended. So I think I, in the end, kept it small. And so I bring this up because you actually have a startup background and you worked in music tech. So I wanted to get your thoughts on kind of the state of this, and if you think I'm doing the right thing, because one of the things I worried about was if musicians would be mad that I kind of took away making an audio music podcast with wallet switching, because I think that is a way for music to get discovered, and I certainly don't want to take that away. But I think there's more value in me actually just telling the story and getting this out there to a new audience. So I just want to get your thoughts on kind of where we are.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody who has a creative project should obviously follow their own instincts there.
Mm-hmm.
But from my experience, my whole idea with the higher low was that ideally my music could be entertaining for people who don't know anything about Bitcoin, that they can hear my song on a playlist, just normal alternative rock playlist or something, or I can play shows in non-Bitcoin events, which I sometimes do. And I don't mention anything that I'm a Bitcoiner. I'm gonna preach Bitcoin to you. I'm just playing the songs, and then the idea is that if they like it, then they can start going through the rabbit hole and start diving into the topics a little bit deeper. And then if they then ask me more about it, then I'm super happy to tell them what I know. But I guess the similar kind of a parallel could be that you have the roots in this valueverse, and you've really done a great service for this small but very kind of a devoted community of value for value artists. But I think you can keep that core and that essence while still kind of broadening the audience and making it interesting for more people. intuitively sounds like the right choice to me. But obviously, it's yours. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like I really thought that with all the work that we've done, yourself included, we need you guys who make music. We need you here. We need you putting music in the Valueverse. And I certainly can continue to promote the music that I like. It just might be a little bit different. And instead of playing it on a podcast that, in addition to spending a lot of money on software, I'm also spending time. Because like if I made a music version of this, I would do it in Hindenburg and I would have to download all the songs and do all the wallet switching is still a manual task. And so then I'm essentially producing like 2 different podcasts. So then it becomes labor intensive and I need to free up some of that time. So I want to promote the music that I like and have people discover it. But I think that's going to look like more like sharing it on places where people are. And that's going to be Twitter, Substack. I can talk about you on YouTube, but if I play your music on YouTube, and I've learned this when I did the podcast with Ivy Lumi, because she actually gave me her music video to play, that got flagged on YouTube. So while, we really are uploading, or you guys, musicians, you're uploading rights-free music to, Fountain and to Wavlake. But that idea still doesn't translate to the mainstream legacy platforms. And that's where people are going to discover it and not Nostr, because there's nobody on Nostr. Nostr, like, let's talk about Nostr use, right? So Nostr 3 weeks ago had like 9,000 weekly active users. And I'm getting these statistics from the Nostr report that Namishka shares weekly. And so after that, the next week, Nostr had 4,000 weekly active users. So it's dying. And so then the last week, so like the week last that he just posted about, was 7,000 users. So it's kind of like, and you see the result of this, right? You see people from Nostr getting more active on Twitter. So there's just no network effect. So I'm doing a disservice by promoting people's music on Nostr and again, posting to that echo chamber, and I'm wanting to get outside that. So I think that sharing the music to places where people are, whether that's Twitter, Substack, TikTok, whatever, I'm better off talking on TikTok about the music than I am posting about it on Nostr. And I've tried to post, I just realized that this got flagged. So I started a TikTok a few months ago, and one of the first videos I posted was a video I made of I was at Bitcoin Park in Nashville, and I made a video that is just me recording Joe Martin talking and then singing a song on stage with Ainsley Costello sitting next to him. And TikTok flagged that and said it was like unauthorized sounds. So it's like I can't, even if it's rights-free music, I'm still going to get in trouble on the legacy platforms. But then the other problem is if I post it on Nostr where I'm supposed to have all this freedom, nobody's going to see it. So we have kind of a two-pronged problem here. And, if I can't bring people to Nostr, then I need to bring the music to where people are. And so if I maybe share a link or share about you or share the podcast, and now somebody, I'm not even going to call it a podcast right now. It's more like a video show, but if somebody can discover you by learning about you by watching this on YouTube, then that's a win rather than getting the same people to, listen and zap over and over. Like I actually want to see you make it. You know what I mean? And we've already touched on the fact that you don't need to do this for a living, but I want to see your music have a shelf life and see your fan base grow, because then in the long term, that's an investment for us, right? Because then in the long term, we're going to have more shows where the high or low plays around the world and more Bitcoiners are turned on to it. Because I feel like if we don't build this audience, it's like we have all this great technology and these great ideas, but we just didn't build the audience. We have to go back to square one and build the audience.
Yeah, it's a classic chicken and egg problem when you do like when you start tech startups, and I did several music related tech startup things, but also when you start these new protocols, especially when you have heavy competition from like Nostr. I obviously it's a technology that can do a variety of things, but the original idea was to build like a Twitter copy in a decentralized way, which the idea has always resonated with me as a wonderful idea. But again, X has tens of, if not hundreds of millions of users, Instagram and TikTok. These numbers are just so big that if you're only putting yourself in that little box, and if you keep yourself in a small box, it's very hard to grow. So I guess the ideal, maybe if you dream a little bit, like some kind of ideal scenario would be that the artists in this scene that are doing like Bitcoin related or adjacent music. People like you who are doing this amazing work in kind of promoting and kind of talking about the culture and making it sound interesting to people. If we succeed to kind of take it big in a bigger way, and then when we have the audience, then we can introduce them back to these great
Yeah,
tools.
that's
Because the idea of like you can send money to your if you see a good show that really entertains you, you can send money directly in a second with no middleman. It is a super powerful thing. It
oh
is a
yeah,
super powerful thing. Even though you have in the US, you have Venmo and QR code payments and all that kind of stuff, it's still different. Still
yeah.
different when you can just like send small fractions or meaningful amounts, and it's automatic. And then all these, well, yeah, I'm actually investor in one like a small startup investor in a company that is trying to build tools from the moment when a song is ready up to the point when it's published, because that's a really messy field. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of like Dropbox and paperwork and dealing with the publishing companies and all that kind of stuff. So what for them when I put that small investment in, I said that like one day you should look into Bitcoin and especially when like the value for value and like how you can with Lightning Network, like
Mm-hmm.
let's say you have a 4-person band, and when the money comes in, then it automatically gets divided to these people based on those copyright ratios and stuff. I said it
Mm-hmm.
one day it's gonna be great, and then if they succeed and become something bigger, they're quite early stage now, then I'll definitely
Yeah.
keep reminding them about that. That would be cool to see in a more like a professional platform as well.
Yeah, like it's too early to be that person. But so this is a company you've currently invested in?
Yeah, last year I put a
Mm-hmm.
little small angel investment in, and
Okay, cool.
let's see how it goes. I got some update today, and it's looking quite promising. But
It's looking good.
what?
Yeah,
Yeah,
someday
yeah,
there will be the intersection of all of these ideas, but I feel like we're still building and we need the people, we need the audience.
yeah. People, you can't really have a revolution without people. So that's
Yeah.
like you can
And
ask
that's where we're
any
lacking.
revolutionary fanatic that if you don't have people, it's very hard to have a revolution. So we need the people. We need to be like just making whatever we're doing. We have to make it so fun and interesting that people
Hmm.
kind of pay attention in this
Yes.
very crazy world where like there's these 5-second dopamine hits everywhere. But it's still possible. I believe
Yeah,
that. I mean, one of our songs for
it
Fumble
is.
ended up in this Law and Order, and we get like 50 Shazams every
See, I didn't
week
know that. That's so
because of
cool.
that. So everything is possible if you just as Andy Warhol said, 90% of success is showing up. So we just need to keep showing up everywhere, and then over
Yes.
time we can kind of bring those principles and bring people to those principles. That's the way I approach it.
Yeah. And that's like it was never an issue to me. Like I never thought about like killing off Radio Detox or giving up. I just went if I am to keep this thing going, it needs to be right sized and it needs to be heading to the right place so that people will actually like get it. And if that means I have to, suck it up and put it on Spotify and Apple, even though I know that I'm never going to make money there, and neither is anybody else who's independent. But in order to get the idea out into the world, it needs to probably go there. And, I haven't put it there yet, but I'm getting there. I'm trying to get out of my own way and not be so idealistic when it comes to things like Bitcoin and Nostr and value for value. Like, because it still doesn't just it doesn't just work for people. It's still, there are a lot of educational and mental hurdles people have to get to in order to get to the point where you and I are. And we're having a great time, right? We're all in. We're hardcore Bitcoin maxis. We love doing this. We're putting our free time and we're putting our talent into this. And that's where like the idea of Radio Detox is that you can detox off of the fiat system and you can detox off of fiat culture and fiat music. And if where we're at today, if that is only the fact that you get to watch this podcast on YouTube and then you learn about Rami and his band, The Higher Low, and you're maybe a Bitcoiner, you may be thinking about Bitcoin and you're like, where do I fit in this whole world? But I can listen to The Higher Low and maybe my day is just a little bit brighter because I listen to some music that's congruent now with this more like Bitcoin value system that I have because I'm a Bitcoiner now. like then we're doing the job,
Yeah.
right? We're doing what we set out to do with Radio Detox. And maybe I don't call it a podcast. Maybe this is just a show. Maybe it's just a video thing. Maybe it's a YouTube thing for a minute. So I wanted to be honest about that with my hundreds of listeners and just be like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is where the space at. And this is where the idea is. And this is what's going to work for today. And it's going to evolve. It's going to be different over time. And I'll just keep meeting it where it's at, and that's my social worker background, is meeting people where they're at. And I think that there's been a lot of like hoorah, number go up, just hype in the space, and I'm anti-hype, right? I want things to be on the level and be real, and I think the Vegas experience showed that, because we saw people who I guess should be involved that I hadn't seen a lot of before. Like I saw Odell give a big fat zap. So shout out to Odell for giving a big zap during the show in Vegas. And I was like, okay, these are the people that I've missed seeing in the last 2+ years that we've been putting on these shows, whether in person or online. And there's another place where we've done a lot of work over the last couple of years. You were talking about like, it's easy for you to just like show up with a guitar. And I'm like, yes. Because I know, like, with Ainsley, like, I've roadied for Ainsley. Like, Sam Means has helped me roadie for some of these shows. And, like, it's an intense amount of work just to set the thing up, get an AV guy to do the job, which, by the way, isn't free. And then you're roadieing, like you're setting up, you're taking down, in Sam's case, he dedicated his space, one day so that we could throw out Culture Shock. And this was like February 2024. So like we've done the proof of work in this space. We're just waiting for the audience to catch up. So I'm just going to keep putting in the reps, and it's going to look a little bit different for a while. It's not going to look as detoxy as it was, but the use case just isn't there to be completely decentralized or be completely on Nostr. Like the audience just isn't there. Like we're gonna have to either move on or wait for the audience to show up, and it's time to figure out which is going to happen next.
I hear you. I totally hear you. And I mean, again, the best case probably would be that you find something that kind of grows outside of this Bitcoin bubble, and then brings people into the Bitcoin bubble. And that's kind of the whole point of the higher low. Was just like it's like a therapeutic thing for me. To kind of counterbalance my pretty stressful day job, to write music and stuff. And then if as a bonus, some people will hear it, that's already great. And if out of those people who hear it, like some percentage actually like it, then I'm already like double winner. And then if somebody somehow like buys a vinyl album from me, or a t-shirt or Zaps or something, then that's like, okay, wow.
Yeah.
Now it's like, this is just a pure bonus, but it's some reason something kind of clicked on me when I was a small boy, and my mom put me into a piano class, and my piano teacher was in the first class before we even touched the keyboard. Do you want to play classical or do you want to play pop rock? And I was like, I don't know, 6-7 years old. I would like to probably pop rock. And then the first class was watching Bruce Springsteen's VHS. 1.5 or 2.5 hours live show with E Street Band, and in the end he faints on the stage. Then he said, "Okay, next week we start playing." So I got like that kind of a good starting point on rock and roll lifestyle. And later on, it turned out that this guy who was my teacher, living in the same row house, he was actually the keyboard player of one of the biggest rock bands of the time in Finland. But I didn't know that as a small boy.
Oh wow!
But he really put me on the right track, like that, learning how kind of pop rock songs are structured and these kind of things. And then those things have stayed with me ever since. It all changed when I saw the Ramones as a schoolboy
That does not surprise
in
me.
Helsinki, and then me and my buddy, we had a school band. We were like playing lots of technical songs like Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, like whatever, like school parties, like a six-man band with keyboards and everything. And then we saw Ramones, like, F this, let's just pick like 3 or 4 chords and electric guitars and just start going forward and drop that technical. Let the other people deal with the technical music. And that probably was the reason why I still do it, because it doesn't require like 8 hours of playing a day to kind of keep at it, because the core is simple. But then I am blessed because in Finland I have the full band, extremely talented musicians, some of them with whom I played for way over 10 years in other bands, that when I just bring my simple basic song there, then after a few days, they made it like sound like an actual big song. So for me, then that's another like a layer of happiness that you do something simple, and then with help of your friends and cooperation, suddenly you have something much bigger. And yeah, it's just it's a lot of fun. I never expected that this little bit older age that I would still have an active music project that takes me to play shows
We
around the
never
world.
knew.
Yeah, but
We didn't see
I'll
it
take
coming.
it. I'll take it as
Yeah.
long as it lasts and people can invite me and it fits the calendar. And I'm super happy to play these shows. And I'm also very
Hmm.
honored to be part of this community of these
Yeah.
hardworking, highly principled people like you and Mike and Reverend and the awesome artists like Ainsley and Joe and Abel and
Hmm.
Jade and that Nua. Yeah, so like amazing people. And I'm just listing a few, but and
Yeah. It's.
Roger, Captain You. There's so many awesome Bitcoin related artists that
Mhm.
keep just grinding and you know, building a better world through music. I love it.
Yeah. Like I feel like I've never cracked the surface. Like for me, I got into radio 28 years ago, and I like it sounds crazy to say 28 years ago. It's been almost 30 years I've done this in some capacity, at least on and off, right? There were some breaks from the industry, but I always end up back there somehow. And then like 28 years ago, I was obviously a child, but I started out working with rock stars and partying with rock stars. It was off and running. And so this podcast, or whatever we want to call it, Radio Detox, like this is sort of my mea culpa and sort of my step 9, because, part of that world, was me partying, and it was me partying on record label, dime. Like I was, I was part of at least at the end of the party, as the party was coming to an end that the record labels were funding. Like I was part of that. I was benefiting off of that. And so this is my mea culpa and saying, okay, like we know that doesn't work. And we can look at many, many famous artists who've called that out as not beneficial to artists, period, indie or famous, Prince being one of the biggest examples of that. And me just going like, I was there until the party ended. And like now radio is pretty dead. And a lot of my friends are laid off or forcibly retired. And when this idea came along, and when I joined Noster, and when I saw Value for Value and what Adam Curry has done, and I saw this, I was like, this clicked for me. It was like this is a way, because one of the aspects of radio that isn't good is that a lot of local artists aren't getting played on the radio at all anymore, unless there's like
Mhm.
some cable access show or there's some like local talent show or whatever. Like it's really hard to push local independent artists to a community anymore. And so then if we look at us, like we're taking care of our own here. Like we're able to push like an artist like Rami, the higher low, we're able to push you to the Bitcoin community and say to Bitcoiners like, hey, there's Bitcoin music. There's Bitcoin culture. Like you can support artists with Bitcoin, whether you do that on Fountain or Wavlake, or you support, Radio Detox, or you support people through Geyser Fund who are working to raise money, like Helene working to, record or fix their studio, or Ivy Lumi did her campaign on Geyser to, just, she didn't even ask for that much money. It was just like, send me sats to help me with recording of my music, and it's that simple.
Very
And like,
cool.
yeah, and that's the thing too, is like you got something going on Geyser too. Don't you have some vinyl there?
Yeah. So when I made my the first like full band sound album, which I released last August at the BTC Hell, the Bitcoin
Mm-hmm.
event in my hometown Helsinki, I was able to have the record release show there in the after party, and then it was the first time I played with the full band. And the latest album is also with the full band sound. So yeah, it's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like we have the tools available. Like we have the rails, they are built. The podcasting technology is there, whether it's RSS or Noster. We've got Zaps, we've got Wavlake, we've got Fountain, we've got people building things like Tsunami, we've got we've got Geyser Fund, we've got PubPay.me, we've got Epic Music. I can go on naming apps and things that we've built all day. And
Wavlake, fountain, everything.
yeah.
And also yeah, so just now I remember what you asked. So in Geyser, I basically did the kind of supportive campaign because I had already decided to launch it like as a free album in Wavlake and
Hmm.
Fountain and so on. And then the usual places, Apple Music, Spotify. So, but I also wanted to do something more kind of concrete. So I made a vinyl version. So
Hmm.
I did the vinyl version project at in Geyser, and it was great. And also T-shirts and stuff. So the page is still up there if you want to get a vinyl version of the latest album with the kind of full production sound. You can still get it from there, and t-shirts and stuff. Yeah, and then super excited about my upcoming shows that are coming
Yes,
in
you got
a
like
couple of
what
weeks.
four shows are coming up. Let's rattle them off.
Yeah,
Where
the
can
one
people see you play? Well, Europe, obviously, but more specifically, which
you
cities?
yeah, this is yeah, it's gonna be Europe here on out this year. So first of all, it was great to play Las Vegas. It was great to visit. Last time I was there in 13 years before, so it's nice to refresh my Las Vegas kind of a memory. But yeah, so next show is gonna be in Prague at the Satoshi Nakamoto Music Bitcoin side event. I don't know the
Awesome.
exact date yet, but it's gonna be probably between 11th and 13th, one of those nights. Then
Love
the
Satoshi
following week I'll
Nakamoto.
be playing. Yeah, it's so much fun. Gonna be playing at the Revolution Rocks event in Belgrade in Serbia the following week,
Hmm.
and then in August I'm gonna go to Scotland for the first time since I was studying in the UK a long time ago, and did a 2-day trip to climb on the highest mountain of Great Britain, Ben Nevis. But I never did see much of Scotland. But now I'm gonna go to Glasgow, play at the Glasgow
Awesome.
Bitcoin conference end of August, and Roger 9000 is going to be there as well. And then, of course,
Cool.
my hometown is going to have the Bitcoin BTC Hell event, which was a great success last year. Only like first event, about 1,000 people. And I think this year they try to do it even bigger way. So that's going to be
Awesome.
fun. That's going to be around 23rd, 4th, 5th, something like this of September. That's about it for this year for the shows. But obviously, if good ideas come from somewhere, I might consider it. I mean,
I
it's not just about to play, but to go meet the people, meet the local
Mhm.
Bitcoin community. Always meet some
Mhm.
like-minded people that I stay in touch for years to come. So it's just been my like cheat code to get into the Bitcoin culture, with
There you
kind
go.
of a old angle and a small contribution to the culture. Yeah, it's great. I'm grateful that Bitcoin community has been so nice to me, and I'll try to return the favor with making songs that make some plebs smile every now and then.
Yeah, it's there's nothing that compares to being able to hang out with other Bitcoiners, and I know this because when I lived in Wichita, I could not find another Bitcoiner to hang out with. Like they have a Bitcoin meetup there now, but I wish I'd have been there when I lived there. But I think you said something newsworthy, and I'm going to go back to that real quick. Is that you had 1,000 people in the audience at BTC Hell last year? Like your hometown of Helsinki brought in 1,000 people into your audience that came to watch you play.
Yeah.
That's newsworthy because I
Well,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
yeah,
that was the event. Yeah, the after party itself, like we played first,
okay,
so not everybody from the event came there, but it was still a
gotcha.
big show. I mean, it was like the biggest one I ever did was in Madeira, where Bitcoin Atlantis, like that
Okay.
Atlas, they put like a proper rock festival there. It was like a real music festival. So that was great.
Okay.
But yeah, the BTC
Because
Hell
I'm
show was great. It's a
curious.
great venue that I've been watching like American bands often when they come. That's one of the venues they play in. It's a great venue, and we had like a nice turnout and a lot of fun
That's
and a
good.
good party.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the biggest one I've seen would be the Vegas shows that we've done last year and this year. To me, those were the biggest audience I've seen show up to come to one of these types of shows where people like yourself earn Bitcoin for playing for people like me who are just fans. And I think we had like maybe 400 people show up at We All Scream, and to me,
It
that's the
was
biggest
huge.
show
It was
we've
huge.
had. Yeah, it was a good audience, and it was not everybody was in front of the stage to watch the band. Some people were upstairs just like drinking and hanging out
It's
because
understandable. Yeah,
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 but we're getting there. And so like it's good to know where the best shows are and the biggest audiences in the world and which shows somebody like yourself would want to play. Like certainly I think when we did or not we, I wasn't there, but like the Costellos did bands at Bitcoin in 2024 for the 2024 conference. Like I think that was a big good crowd too. So I think creating these experiences
yeah. I played
where
there
we
as
can
well. Yeah,
yeah, so like how big that crowd was. That was a good one because that was us at the Vinyl
yeah,
Lounge, which was across from the Nashville Convention Center. And I don't know if that's an option next
yeah,
year when the BTC conference is in Nashville. But I mean, that's Music City's got to show up for us music nerds who are into sound music and sound money, and so hopefully there's a
yeah. I would be
possibility
surprised
there.
if because I remember back in the day there was a little bit of like people were hoping for a little bit more like support from the organizers for these kind of you know
Yeah,
Bitcoin inspired small artists. But then, no problem. We had that band fans at Bitcoin, and then we also had the Wavlake party in Nashville, and
yeah.
both were great, and I played in both of those. A lot of fun. But I
Awesome.
have to say,
Well,
the Nos Vegas event was clearly like yes, I played in like bigger stages like in Madeira or in
mhm.
Helsinki, but as an event where so many people so engaged, all
Yeah.
artists, not just like Bitcoin artists, but like had their like really unique style of music that complemented each other. Like it was just to me, it was like
Yeah.
the pinnacle. It was more than I way more than I expected. So really great job everybody who was involved in putting that together. And yeah, it was a lovely experience. And
It was a good
hopefully
time.
something bigger in the future. But yeah, that was literally like everything worked so perfectly. Like the artists, the vibe, the the sapping technology, the Nostr integration, everything was just like so well thought out. I loved it.
Yeah, it felt
Mm.
like it was finally coming together for real. Like I felt like it
Yeah,
worked, like
yeah.
it clicked for the audience and for the artists, and for even hopefully the folks at home too enjoyed it. Well, Rami, thank you. The Higher Low, you can get the album. As he mentioned, Freedom in the Digital Age is the name of the latest album. You can get the vinyls on Geyser. You can listen on Fountain. You can listen on Wavlake and see him in Europe. We got Prague, we got Serbia, we got Glasgow, we got Helsinki. Make sure that you, I guess, get on your mailing list so that people know about the shows and they can attend it. Did I miss anything before I let you
Yeah,
go?
yeah. No, that's so cool. So thehigherlow.com, you can go and the live show, so you can see them there if you're interested. And
Awesome.
again, if you check it out, if you like the music, just find me on X and say hi, and hopefully see any of you who listen to this radio detox. Hope to see many of you in person one day.
Awesome. Thanks for being my guest, Rami. You're the best. Thanks for playing Vegas. Hopefully I'll get to see you on your home turf one of these days. That would be great because now you've sold me on Madeira and Helsinki. That's for sure.
Sounds good. My pleasure. Thanks, Heather, and have a good one, and see you in person soon again.